9 dark psychology tricks that always work. Unlock the hidden power of influence. Modern Stoic. Dark psychology can seem like a complex field of knowledge, but the reality is, it's just as intricate to use as it is to understand. The true value of learning these techniques isn't necessarily about using them to manipulate others, but rather about understanding how they might be used against you. Knowledge is power, and in this case, it can act as a shield. When you learn the subtle strategies behind dark psychology, you become more aware of the ways people may try to influence or control your decisions. It's important to recognize these tactics when they're being used, whether for personal gain or otherwise. That said, some of these methods can be unethical, so it's vital to wield this knowledge with caution and responsibility. As the philosopher Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The same principle can be applied here. Understanding dark psychology isn't about using it to manipulate others, but about reducing your vulnerabilities, ensuring your mind remains calm, and making thoughtful, independent decisions without being swayed by external influences. Remember, knowledge itself is neutral. It's how you use it that defines its power. The first trick is the foot in the door technique. The foot in the door technique is one of the most powerful and subtle manipulative methods used to influence people's decisions. It hinges on a simple but effective psychological principle: commitment and consistency. Essentially, this technique involves first getting someone to agree to a small, seemingly insignificant request, which then makes them more likely to agree to a much larger request later on. Think of it like opening the door just a crack. And once it's slightly open, it's much easier for someone to push it wide open. For example, imagine a salesperson asking you to take a quick look at a product. It seems harmless, right? You might even feel it's no big deal. But once you agree to that small request, your mind is already on the path of consistency. So, when the salesperson asks if you'd like to make a purchase, your subconscious mind pushes you towards agreeing, even if you weren't initially planning to buy. It's a clever trick that plays on the psychological principle that we tend to act in ways that align with our previous decisions, even when those decisions start to feel bigger or more intrusive. This technique works because of how deeply ingrained the need for consistency is in human nature. We often seek to avoid cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable feeling that arises when our actions contradict our beliefs. By agreeing to a small request, we create a pattern that our brain naturally wants to follow, which makes it much easier for us to say yes again later. It's why you might feel pressured into buying something you didn't originally want, or signing up for something you hadn't planned on. Real-life examples of this can be seen everywhere, from retail sales to fundraising. For instance, many charitable organizations use a similar technique when they ask for small donations first. Once you've given a little, it's easier for them to ask for more and for you to comply. It's not just in sales, though. This technique is often used in negotiations, leadership, and even personal relationships. One famous quote by Robert Cialdini, a leading psychologist on influence, says, "People are more likely to comply with a request if they have already agreed to something smaller." This wisdom can help you better understand why you sometimes find yourself agreeing to things you didn't initially want to. The key takeaway here is awareness. By understanding the psychology behind this technique, you can be more conscious of your decisions and avoid being manipulated unknowingly. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever found yourself agreeing to something just because you said yes to a small favor or request first? Maybe it was a salesperson who got you to say yes to trying something before asking for a purchase, or a friend who convinced you to take part in an activity you weren't keen on after getting you to do something small first. The second trick is self-abasement. The second trick in dark psychology is self-abasement, a tactic where, rather than forcing your point through strength or insults, you humble yourself to gain the other person's trust or influence their decisions. This technique relies on vulnerability, where a manipulator lowers their own status to create emotional leverage. Instead of acting dominant, manipulators will go in the opposite direction, using humility or self-criticism as a tool for persuasion. By doing so, they provoke an emotional response in the person they are trying to manipulate, one that can lead to sympathy or even admiration. In some cases, they might admit faults or flaws that aren't genuine, presenting themselves as the victim or someone who is undeserving of the other person's anger or disdain. Self-abasement has deep roots in psychology, especially in its relationship with reverse psychology. The concept is simple. When someone tells you to do something, you might instinctively feel the urge to do the opposite. But in the case of self-abasement, this dynamic is manipulated in a more subtle, emotionally driven way. For example, imagine your partner is angry with you and nothing you say seems to change their perspective. Your usual persuasion techniques, reasoning or arguing, fail because their emotions have taken over. In this moment, self-abasement becomes a powerful tool. Instead of defending yourself or trying to fix the situation through logic, you might say something like, "I'm so bad at relationships. I always mess things up. No one could possibly love someone like me." By diminishing yourself, you're reversing the situation. You're no longer the one in the wrong, but instead the one who needs comforting or validation. This technique is especially prevalent in relationships, where it can be used to shift the power dynamic. It's often seen in romantic dynamics, where one person, usually with intent, presents themselves as completely imperfect or undeserving of love, triggering a sense of care or empathy from the other person. Women, for instance, may engage in self-abasement by making a small mistake and exaggerating it, in the hopes of receiving excessive praise or attention for the tiniest of wrongdoings. This doesn't only happen in romantic relationships, though. It can be used in any context where emotional dynamics are at play. Self-abasement plays on a universal truth of human nature. People are often drawn to others who appear vulnerable. By presenting yourself as vulnerable or weak, you put others in a position where their natural instinct is to offer reassurance or love, thus creating an environment where the manipulator gains emotional control. In real life, this trick is not always obvious. Self-abasement can be disguised as an innocent act of humility, but when you understand how the tactic works, it becomes easier to recognize. For example, a friend or colleague who constantly downplays their own achievements may be seeking validation, and when they get the praise they want, they leverage that emotional reaction to achieve their own goals. It's not necessarily about manipulating in a malicious way, but rather about understanding how emotions influence behavior and using that knowledge to influence outcomes. It's important to acknowledge that while this tactic can be effective, it's also a form of emotional manipulation that can lead to unhealthy relationship dynamics. Relationships thrive on mutual respect, genuine vulnerability, and honesty, not on constant emotional games or strategies. In fact, the Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on developing internal strength rather than relying on external validation. As the philosopher Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things." True power comes not from manipulating the emotions of others, but from mastering our own. The third trick is future faking. Future faking is not just a manipulation tactic, it's a psychological trap that exploits your most noble instinct, your hope for a better future. And if you are a man between the ages of 35 and 70, a man who has built his life on responsibility, loyalty, and vision, then this message is especially for you, because manipulators target those with deep emotional depth, not the shallow. Future faking is when someone crafts a false future in your mind, promises of love, partnership, success, or a grand tomorrow, not because they intend to deliver it, but because they want to control your actions today. It sounds like, "I want to grow old with you," or "We'll retire in the countryside together," or "We're almost there, just a little more patience." And they know exactly what to say to make you stay, make you loyal, make you endure. The ancient Stoics warned us about this, about getting attached to what might be instead of what is. Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The manipulator hopes you don't react, that you simply wait in obedience, while they quietly take from you your time, your effort, your energy, and your emotional investment. What makes this tactic especially cruel is that it does not bind you with chains, it binds you with dreams, and a dream can be harder to break than steel. In a romantic relationship, she may talk about marriage, a home, children, or a life of luxury with you, not because she sees it, but because she knows you do. In business, a manipulative partner might say, "We're this close to landing that big deal, just to keep you working overtime, sacrificing weekends, and pouring in effort with no intention of ever sharing the reward." In friendships, someone might say, "We'll make things right," or "Trust me, next time I've got you," all to pacify your rightful anger or disappointment. The pattern is always the same. Keep you emotionally hooked with empty visions while consistently under-delivering in the present. Modern Stoicism teaches you to judge reality not by words, but by results. Actions are truth. Everything else is noise. Marcus Aurelius, the great emperor-philosopher, wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone. The harm is to persist in one's self-deception and ignorance." And yet, that's exactly what future faking causes. A man to persist in self-deception, waiting on a future that was never meant to come. So what should a Stoic man do when he sees through this illusion? He does not beg for honesty. He does not rage. He simply sees. And once he sees, he adjusts. He detaches. He reclaims his time, his mind, and his masculine authority. You must understand this. Power is not in controlling others. It's in controlling your response to them. A man who stands firmly in the present cannot be pulled around by false futures. Instead of asking, "What if?" he asks, "What is?" He studies patterns, he watches for proof, and he builds his life only with those who show up, not just speak up. In this modern world where manipulation often hides behind smiles and sweet words, silence becomes a weapon, observation becomes a shield, and discernment becomes your guide. So I ask you directly, have you ever looked back and realized that someone kept you trapped, not with force, but with fantasy? How long did you wait? And more importantly, what did it cost you? This is your moment to rise above illusions. Comment below and share your experience. You never know who you might help, because every time a man wakes up from the grip of future faking, he not only saves himself, he becomes a light for others. And remember this, promises are cheap. Action is currency. And the Stoic man never pays with his soul. The fourth trick is reason persuasion. Dark psychology often takes advantage of the deceptively simple yet powerful tool of reason persuasion. This psychological trick plays on our innate ability to think logically and rationally, convincing us that something is a reasonable course of action, even when it is not in our best interest. Manipulators are highly adept at crafting logical, seemingly sensible arguments that sway their targets into doing what they want. The power of reason persuasion lies in its subtlety. It uses what we already consider as rationality to control us. Consider a simple scenario. Two homeless individuals approach you for help. One simply asks for money, while the other explains, "I've been hungry since yesterday and haven't had a bite to eat. Could you spare some change so I can buy some food?" Which one are you more likely to help? Most people, naturally, are more inclined to help the second person. Why? Because they've provided you with a reason for their request. They've painted a picture of a dire situation, hunger, and provided a logical reason for why they need the money. This simple act of framing their request in a way that makes logical sense triggers your empathy. In your mind, it becomes easier to justify the action because it feels like the right thing to do. The first person simply asking for money doesn't provide the same logical reasoning, and so it's easier to dismiss their request. But now, let's extend this idea to a much darker and more dangerous application of reason persuasion. A criminal mastermind, looking to orchestrate a bank robbery, might approach someone who is desperate, perhaps someone who is poor, unemployed, or struggling with financial issues. They don't just tell this person, "Help me rob a bank." Instead, they use reason to build a narrative that convinces the individual that their plan makes perfect sense. They will explain how the robbery could solve all of the target's financial problems, paint a picture of how they won't get caught, and emphasize the ease of the plan. They will make it sound like a reasonable, even necessary decision. The manipulator might even present themselves as the source of all knowledge, emphasizing their expertise in avoiding detection, and make the target believe that they are simply taking advantage of an opportunity that would otherwise pass them by. This use of reason is incredibly powerful. The target, feeling desperate or powerless, might find it difficult to resist. The reasoning is so sound, so plausible, that it overpowers any moral hesitations or warnings they may have. It's not about using force or aggression. It's about planting a seed of logic that grows into full-blown manipulation. Over time, this reasoned explanation makes the plan seem not just acceptable, but necessary. The person who would never have dreamed of committing such an act might, under the sway of reasoned persuasion, become an unwitting accomplice to a serious crime. In fact, many crimes are rooted in this very form of manipulation. Behind every crime that involves a willing participant, there is often a story of persuasion, where logic, fear, and a sense of necessity collide to turn an ordinary person into a criminal. This is the danger of reasoned persuasion. It can be so convincing that we fail to see the manipulation behind it. It lures us in with its appeal to logic, and before we realize it, we are making decisions that we never thought we would. It's crucial to understand how powerful this tactic is, because it doesn't just apply to extreme cases like criminal activity. It can be used in everyday situations as well. Whether it's convincing someone to buy something they don't need, to make a decision that isn't in their best interest, or to go along with a plan that might be morally or ethically wrong, reasoned persuasion works by making the manipulator's desires seem like reasonable outcomes. So how can you protect yourself from this kind of manipulation? First, always be aware of the reasons being presented to you. Take a step back and ask yourself, is this really the best course of action? Or is someone trying to manipulate me into thinking it is? Don't be afraid to question the logic behind a suggestion, especially if it feels too perfectly aligned with your own desires or weaknesses. And most importantly, recognize that reason, though powerful, is not always right. Just because something makes logical sense doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. In fact, the most dangerous manipulations often come clothed in the most logical arguments. So next time you're faced with a decision that seems too easy or too perfectly rational, take a moment to dig deeper. Look beyond the surface and ask yourself, who benefits from this decision, and is that person really on my side? The fifth trick is anchoring. Anchoring is a powerful psychological manipulation trick that can shift your perception and decisions without you even realizing it. It's the subtle art of using an initial piece of information, often called an anchor, to influence how you view everything that comes after it. The first piece of information you encounter acts as a benchmark, a reference point, and it shapes all your future judgments. Let's break this down with a simple yet telling example. Imagine you're out shopping for a car. The salesperson first shows you a high-end vehicle priced at $50,000. It's a beautiful car, but way out of your price range. Then they show you another car priced at $30,000. Even though $30,000 is still a hefty sum compared to the first car, you might see the second one as a fantastic deal. This is the essence of anchoring. The initial high price has anchored your thinking, making the second, though still expensive, seem like a bargain. And that's exactly what manipulators want. They want to plant an anchor that guides your thoughts and decisions in their favor. This technique is used everywhere, from shopping malls to high-stakes business deals, all designed to make you feel like you're getting a better deal than you really are. Now, let's connect this to your everyday life. Have you ever found yourself justifying a purchase or a decision because it seemed reasonable in comparison to something else? Maybe you've bought a product because it was on sale, but when you look back, you realize it wasn't a sale at all. It was just anchored by the original price tag. Manipulators in the market, in relationships, and in negotiations all understand the strength of this tactic, and they use it to guide you toward decisions that are more beneficial to them than to you. It's crucial to recognize this tactic, especially when making significant decisions. When you become aware of anchoring, you become empowered. You can start making decisions that aren't swayed by initial anchors, but based on your true needs, values, and judgment. Take a moment to reflect on the anchors in your life. What are the reference points that are shaping your decisions right now? Are they helping you make empowered choices, or are they subtly guiding you in directions you don't want to go? Remember, your perception is everything. When you let someone else set the anchor, you're giving them power over your decisions. But when you set your own anchors, you reclaim your personal strength and control. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to take back control of your decision-making process, take a moment to comment below and share. I am the one who controls my anchors. You hold the power to shape your reality. Stay sharp, stay aware, and make decisions based on your true desires, not someone else's manipulated anchors. In summary, anchoring is a potent tool used by manipulators to control how you perceive situations, but it's also a skill that you can use for yourself. Be the master of your anchors and watch how your decisions become more intentional, more aligned with your true goals, and more empowering. Don't let others dictate your perception. Be the one who sets the anchor. The sixth trick is going slightly wrong. Dark psychology is a powerful tool, and the fifth trick you need to master is the subtle art of going slightly wrong. This psychological manipulation strategy is one that top manipulators have perfected because it flies under the radar, going unnoticed but always yielding results. The trick is simple, yet incredibly effective. By intentionally providing a bit of incorrect information with full confidence, you spark the target's need to correct you. In turn, they reveal more than you intended to know. This tactic is brilliantly simple. Take the example of a neighbor's aunt who, out of curiosity, uses this technique to extract information about her neighbor's child's exam results. She casually asks about the child's performance, perhaps mentioning, "I heard David topped the class," which in reality may not be true. But the neighbor, eager to correct this misinformation, might reveal more than just the truth, like details about David's performance compared to last time. This seemingly innocent inquiry leads to a deeper dive, and the aunt gathers not only the correct answer, but also additional insights that weren't meant to be shared. The beauty of this strategy lies in its subtlety. It's about creating a safe space for the target to engage, correcting you without realizing the exchange is one-sided. When done properly, this manipulation trick feels natural and easy, giving you the information you seek without confrontation. But there's a catch. You must be cautious. This technique only works if the other party doesn't recognize it as a manipulation tactic. If they've seen this video, your plan might backfire. So how do you execute this successfully? Start the conversation by asking innocent, seemingly harmless questions that don't raise suspicion. A slight misstep in your information prompts them to correct you, leading them to provide you with more valuable details. Manipulation, when applied with finesse, can unlock hidden truths, but it's essential to approach it with awareness and confidence. The more naturally you incorporate these psychological tricks into your interactions, the more power you'll hold over the conversation. And remember, confidence is key. Manipulators use these tactics because they know people are driven to correct information that doesn't sit right with them. As you master this trick, keep in mind that it is not just about extracting information. It's about controlling the flow of conversation and steering it in your favor. This isn't just some mind game. It's a skill set that, when applied ethically, can be used for both personal and professional gain. In fact, a famous quote by Sun Tzu comes to mind: "All warfare is based on deception." In your case, you're not waging war, but you're navigating the battlefield of social interactions with the precision of a strategist. Use this power wisely. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever used a form of psychological manipulation in your daily life, even unintentionally? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. And if you found this strategy intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more insights into dark psychology and its practical applications in your life. This technique isn't just a psychological hack, it's a step towards mastering human behavior. Whether you're negotiating, socializing, or simply navigating the complexities of daily interactions, understanding how to manipulate the flow of conversation can give you a significant edge. So, the next time you're in a discussion, remember, going slightly wrong could just be the key to unlocking the deeper layers of truth. The seventh trick is love bombing. The seventh dark psychology trick that you absolutely need to understand is love bombing. It's one of the most commonly used tactics in relationships, and unfortunately, it's also one of the most effective. Love bombing is a psychological manipulation trick where an individual showers the target with excessive compliments, surprises, affection, and attention in an attempt to control the target's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. While it's most commonly associated with romantic relationships, this tactic can be used in various settings: friendships, family relationships, school, work, and even on social media. The manipulator uses this tactic to create an emotional bond that feels intense and real, leading the target to believe that they've found something truly special. Imagine for a moment that you're in a new relationship or friendship, and everything feels perfect. The other person constantly praises you, listens intently to everything you say, and showers you with thoughtful gestures and attention. You might even feel as though you found someone who truly understands you, someone who makes you feel special in ways you've never felt before. This feels wonderful, doesn't it? The compliments, the constant messages, the surprise gifts. It all seems like real love, right? But here's the trap. The manipulator is intentionally giving you exactly what you crave in order to gain control. They know that everyone wants validation, affection, and attention, and they use that desire to bind you emotionally. This initial phase of excessive love and affection is designed to make you feel emotionally reliant on them, creating an intense bond that makes you believe they are the one person who truly sees you for who you are. Now, what happens once they've got you hooked? Once they've made you believe that you're the most important person in their world? They begin to pull back. Slowly but surely, the affection and attention that were once abundant start to fade. The texts become less frequent, the compliments turn into vague statements, and the kindness becomes more transactional. But here's the real kicker. The emotional bond that's been established makes you crave that attention, crave that affection, and suddenly, you find yourself chasing after them, trying to get back to the place where they made you feel special. You're emotionally dependent on their approval, and that's exactly what the manipulator wants. They now have control. The power of love bombing lies in its ability to manipulate your emotions, forcing you into a cycle of emotional highs and lows. The sudden withdrawal of affection creates insecurity, and you'll do whatever it takes to regain that emotional security. In many cases, the manipulator knows that if they make you feel loved and needed, you'll start doing things to keep the relationship going, things that you might not have agreed to or even considered before. This is when love bombing turns into emotional manipulation. You start to sacrifice your own needs, desires, and even boundaries just to maintain the connection. They push your limits, and you allow it because you fear losing the bond you thought was real. But there's something you need to understand. Real love does not operate like this. Genuine love is not about overwhelming someone with affection and then pulling it away to create dependency. True love is built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. It isn't about emotional games. It's about steady, reliable care and emotional support. The manipulation that love bombing introduces into the relationship is toxic because it creates a false sense of intimacy and emotional security. Instead of building the relationship on mutual respect, it is built on control and insecurity. You might find yourself wondering, Why would someone use love bombing on me? How do I know if I'm being manipulated? The truth is, the manipulator often does this because they are seeking control. They might do it out of a desire for power, or perhaps they don't even fully understand the impact they're having on you. They might believe that their version of love is the best, and they think it's acceptable to use manipulation to achieve the closeness they desire. But here's the thing. You don't have to let anyone control your emotions. You don't have to accept love that comes with strings attached. You deserve authentic connections where both parties are emotionally healthy, where trust is built over time, and where you're not playing emotional games to earn affection. You should be aware of the signs of love bombing so that you can protect yourself from becoming a victim. Recognizing the manipulation before it's too late is crucial. If someone is overwhelming you with affection only to pull it away when they feel you're hooked, that's a clear sign that you need to take a step back and reevaluate the relationship. But how do you protect yourself from love bombing? First, learn to recognize it. Trust your instincts. If something feels off or too good to be true, it probably is. If someone is rushing things, showering you with affection too quickly, or making promises that seem unrealistic, take a moment to pause. Real love takes time to develop. It's not about immediate intensity. It's about gradual, consistent care and connection. It's also essential to establish boundaries and make sure they're respected. Healthy relationships involve mutual respect, where both parties are equally invested in building something meaningful. Take a step back from the whirlwind, evaluate the relationship for what it truly is, and ask yourself if you feel in control of your emotions or if you're constantly chasing someone else's approval. If you're constantly trying to gain someone's affection and struggling to keep up with their emotional shifts, it's a clear sign that the dynamic may not be healthy. Be courageous enough to set boundaries and protect your emotional well-being. You are worth more than someone's manipulation. True love doesn't manipulate. It supports, nurtures, and grows with you. Let me ask you this. Have you ever experienced someone pulling back after a period of intense affection, leaving you feeling insecure and unsure of where you stand? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to learn more about how to recognize and protect yourself from dark psychological tactics like love bombing. Together, we can build stronger, healthier connections and take control of our emotional lives. The 8th trick is the illusion of choice. Manipulation is an art, and one of the most powerful techniques manipulators use is the illusion of choice. It's the deceptive tactic of offering limited options that all lead to the same desired outcome. It's a psychological game where the target is made to feel in control, while, in reality, they are being guided toward a predetermined conclusion. You've seen it before. A manager might say, "Would you prefer staying late today or coming in early tomorrow?" In that moment, you believe you're making a choice, but the reality is, either option benefits the manipulator. This trick is subtle yet deadly, and it's everywhere, from business negotiations to sales, and even in the dynamics of parenting. Manipulators thrive on making you feel empowered while pulling the strings behind the scenes. Think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where you had what you thought was a choice, but after you acted, you realized that no matter what you chose, the outcome was always in the hands of the one who set the options? That's the power of illusion. Now, let's get real. The truth is, manipulators are not interested in your true desires. They want control. This trick isn't just about controlling the decision. It's about controlling the person, making them believe they hold the power when in fact, they're only playing into the manipulator's hand. This false sense of freedom can appear in many areas of life. Salesmen know it well. They'll present you with choices that seem like a win, but are cleverly designed to lead you to their preferred outcome. Take a moment and think. Has a car salesman ever asked, "Do you want the red one or the blue one?" You're drawn into thinking you have power, but both choices come with a price tag that's already decided for you. You never had a choice at all. This tactic plays deeply into human psychology. It taps into the need for autonomy and control. It triggers that primal desire to feel independent, to make decisions that reflect our will. And that's what makes this illusion so powerful. You think you're in charge, but the reality is that you've been steered from the beginning. Manipulators will create these choices, knowing that no matter what you choose, you'll eventually arrive at the conclusion they wanted from the start. The success of this trick lies in its subtlety. It doesn't come off as coercion or force, it comes off as a gift. But it's a gift wrapped in deception. You can't see the strings being pulled. They look invisible, but the manipulation is real, and the impact is profound. In Stoic philosophy, there's a powerful lesson about how we should face control and freedom in our lives. True freedom isn't found in the illusion of choice. It's found in mastering our reactions, our impulses, and our internal world. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In this context, it's about recognizing that true autonomy comes from within. It's about understanding the game of illusion that others play and not being swayed by it. If you are aware of the illusion, you break free from it. You see through the smoke and mirrors. Now, let's apply this lesson to your life. Whether in the boardroom, at home, or in your personal relationships, recognizing this manipulation allows you to reclaim control. The next time someone presents you with a choice that feels too easy, too convenient, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, who benefits from this decision? Is it me or is it them? This simple step of questioning can free you from falling victim to someone else's game. When you take a step back, you'll see that not all choices are truly yours to make. Manipulation by illusion doesn't just occur in high-stakes negotiations. It's present in daily life. Salespeople, marketers, and even your loved ones may use it to manipulate decisions. They create options that sound like empowerment, but in reality, they're guiding you toward a result that serves their interests, not yours. By becoming aware of this tactic, you take back your power. Recognize when you're being manipulated with false choices, and take steps to make decisions based on your true desires, not what someone else wants from you. The next time you face a choice that feels like it's being handed to you on a silver platter, remember, the illusion of choice is one of the most powerful tools in manipulation. When you begin to see the world through this lens, you'll start to notice just how often it's used to control people, especially in business and personal dynamics. You can't always change the game, but you can always change how you play it. So let me leave you with this challenge. The next time someone presents you with a decision, take a moment to reflect and ask, what do I really want? Who stands to gain from this? By doing so, you take the first step toward true freedom, one that's rooted not in false choices, but in empowered decision-making. If this message resonated with you, comment below with, I take control of my decisions, and share your experience with the illusion of choice. Let's start a conversation about how we can break free from manipulation and take charge of our lives today. The 9th trick is playing the victim. Playing the victim is one of the oldest, yet most dangerous dark psychology tricks in the manipulator's arsenal. And if you're a man navigating life between the ages of 35 and 70, you've likely encountered it without even realizing it. It's the subtle art of turning weakness into power, sorrow into a sword, and guilt into a leash. A person who plays the victim doesn't need to raise their voice, threaten, or dominate through force. They simply reshape the story so that they are always the one who's been wronged, mistreated, or misunderstood. And in doing so, they gain the most powerful weapon of all, your emotional sympathy. In modern stoicism, where calm, control, and emotional mastery are core virtues, recognizing this tactic is essential because it directly targets your sense of justice and compassion. The manipulator who plays the victim will tell stories, sometimes exaggerated, sometimes entirely fabricated, about how others have let them down, betrayed them, or abused their trust. And if you're not careful, your instinct to protect or defend them becomes the very chain they use to keep you close. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth. But here's the problem. The victim player doesn't seek truth. They seek control. They don't want correction. They want compliance. You see, in emotionally charged environments, especially within relationships, family matters, or even at work, the man who appears strong, rational, or emotionally detached can be portrayed as cold or cruel when faced with someone playing the victim. And this is where the trap is laid. When someone cries, not from real pain, but for strategic influence, it activates a psychological response rooted in empathy. You begin to feel guilt, shame, or even a sense of duty to fix what they claim is broken, even if it never was. This method is effective because it clouds your judgment, making it harder to see the manipulation through the emotional fog. It's especially potent in romantic or family dynamics, where love, loyalty, and guilt become deeply entangled. The moment you try to step back, assert boundaries, or express skepticism, you're met with accusations of heartlessness, abandonment, or being unfair, none of which are based on reality, but all of which are designed to keep you hooked. To recognize and defend against this manipulation, you must first be brutally honest with yourself about the nature of the emotional exchanges you're involved in. Ask yourself, is this person always the one being wronged, no matter the situation? Do I constantly feel like I'm walking on eggshells around their emotions? Do I feel obligated rather than inspired to be there for them? These are not random emotions. They are signs of psychological conditioning. It's the same as placing a frog in water and slowly turning up the heat. You won't notice the manipulation until it's boiling. But the modern Stoic man is not a boiling frog. He is the observer of patterns, not a prisoner of reactions. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That includes recognizing when someone is manufacturing their own misfortunes to gain control over your time, energy, or decisions. And this tactic doesn't just show up in romantic relationships. It exists in workplaces where colleagues avoid accountability by blaming invisible enemies or systemic unfairness. In friendships, where one person always seems to be a magnet for drama and crisis. Or in families where the same relative guilt trips others for not doing enough, despite always portraying themselves as the one who sacrificed everything. But here's a truth every Stoic man must remember. Real victims don't weaponize their pain. They seek healing, not control. They want understanding, not dominance. When you notice a person using their wounds as a way to silence your logic, manipulate your actions, or guilt you into submission, you are no longer dealing with pain. You are dealing with strategy. So what do you do when you recognize this? You maintain your calm, detach from the emotional bait, and reassert your frame. Do not argue emotionally, state facts. Do not try to rescue, offer reasonable support, then pull back. Do not internalize guilt that is not yours. Remind yourself, their story is not my burden unless I choose to carry it. This is the Stoic path. Clear vision, steady heart, and unshakable presence. Remember the words of Seneca, "He who is brave is free." And freedom begins with recognizing the chains disguised as compassion. If you've ever been in a situation where someone used their sadness to control you, ask yourself today, was it real pain or real manipulation? Comment below with your thoughts, because this discussion is one every man must have to step into his power and out of silent emotional domination. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today, my friend. I truly mean that. In a world that's constantly bombarding us with noise, pressure, and manipulation, the fact that you chose to pause and learn something powerful says a lot about the kind of person you are. Today, we didn't just go through a list of psychological tactics. We peeled back the curtain on how influence really works behind the scenes. These 8 dark psychology tricks aren't just theory. They're happening around you every day, sometimes in ways you don't even notice. They're used in workplaces to gain advantage, in relationships to control, in marketing to push desires, and even in friendships where power dynamics are hidden behind smiles. But here's the truth. When you start to recognize the patterns, when you learn how these methods function at a psychological level, you don't just become smarter, you become emotionally invincible. You see, a lot of people go through life reacting to manipulation, reacting to gaslighting, reacting to emotional traps. But not you. Not anymore. Because you've just equipped yourself with something far more powerful than tactics. You've gained awareness. And awareness changes everything. Like the Stoics taught thousands of years ago, real control begins with the ability to step back, observe, and remain calm while others are caught in chaos. That's what separates a man of wisdom from a man easily swayed. Silence isn't weakness, it's a strategic advantage. Disengaging isn't avoidance, it's strength. Saying less often gives you more control, and recognizing when someone is future faking you or playing the victim to gain sympathy, that's when you reclaim your energy, your time, and your power. So here's my sincere advice to you as we close out this video. Always look beneath the surface. Don't just hear people, study them. Don't just respond, evaluate. Because the moment you start to see the games people play, you begin to master your role in every room you walk into. You don't have to manipulate to be powerful. You don't have to play dirty to win. What you need is discipline, emotional intelligence, and the kind of calm control that unnerves anyone trying to throw you off balance. That's modern stoicism in action. And if no one has told you this today, let me be the first. You are capable of far more than you realize. But first, you must stop giving away your attention so easily. Attention is currency. Energy is power. And the way you respond to manipulation determines whether you stay in control or fall into someone else's game. As the great Epictetus once said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. That's your superpower. Never forget it. And now I want to hear from you. Which of these 8 tricks have you seen in real life? Was there one that hit close to home? Maybe one you've used unknowingly, or one someone used on you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk. Because the more we share, the stronger we all become. And if you found value in this video, if it taught you something new or gave you a new lens to see the world through, please take a moment to like it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe. I've got a lot more powerful content coming that blends psychology, Stoic wisdom, and real-world strategy to help you become the most grounded, resilient, and quietly powerful version of yourself. Thanks again for being here. Until next time, stay calm, stay sharp, and above all, walk like a man who knows his worth. See you in the next video.